Hello, welcome back. The theory of cultural dimensions put forward by Hofstede is most influential intercultural theory in the world. Here are Hofstede's dimensions of cultural values, including the individualism versus collectivism, uncertainty avoidance, power distance, masculinity versus femininity, long-term orientation versus short-term orientation, and indulgence versus restraint. First, individualism and collectivism. How to judge them? In individualistic cultures, people values of individual achievements, freedom, and competition are stressed. People give priority to the task and are supposed to look after their own self-interest. While the collectivistic cultures, people values of group harmony, cohesiveness, and consensus are very important. And the priority is given to relationship with people and group interest. For example, American advocates individualism. When they speak, they emphasize more on I, while Chinese advocates collectivism. They emphasize more on we. What is the main difference between individualism and collectivism? The individual is the single most important unit in any social settings, regardless of the size of the unit, and the uniqueness of each individual is of great value. Give more importance to individuals' needs when they do things such as setting goals. Collectivism is characterized by a rigid social framework that distinguishes between in-groups and out-groups. People count on their in-group to look after them, and in exchange for that, they believe they owe absolute loyalty to the group. Second, we talk about the uncertainty avoidance. Uncertainty avoidance is the tendency to behave so as to arrange things in a way that minimize foreseen consequences. In strong uncertainty avoidance cultures, people tend to be rigid and intolerant. In weak uncertainty avoidance cultures, people are more easygoing. In Japan, people emphasize formal communication, planning, regulations, rituals, and ceremonies. There is strong need for rules. In Singapore, value diversity are able to tolerate differences in belief and behavior. What are the main features of the cultures of low certainty avoidance? And what about cultures of high uncertainty avoidance? In cultures of low uncertainty avoidance, it is likely to have lower stress levels, accept different ideas, and take risks more than cultures of high uncertainty avoidance. New Zealand, USA, and India are good examples. In cultures of high uncertainty avoidance, it is likely to have a lower tolerance for uncertainty and ambiguity, which expresses itself in a higher levels of anxiety, great need for formal rules and absolute truth, and less tolerance for people or group with different ideas or behavior, and more tend to display emotions such as Peru, Japan, and Belgium. Third, it is about power distance. The degree to which a country accepts the fact the differences in its citizens' physical and intellectual capacities give rise to the inequalities in their well-being. In high-power distance cultures, allow inequalities to persist to increase, and organizations tend to be hierarchical, and inequality is accepted. Malaysia is a very typical high-power distance country. In low-power distance culture, people dislike the development of the large inequalities in rights and opportunity in the workplace. What's more, government use taxation or social welfare programs to reduce inequalities, and it is very typical in Austria. What are the main features of cultures of low power distance, and what are the features of the cultures of high power distance? In cultures of low power distance, people believe power should be used only when it is legitimate, and prefer export to legitimate power, such as Australia, Norway, New Zealand, Austria. In cultures of high power distance, people tend to accept power as part of the society. As a result, superiors consider their subordinates to be different from themselves and vice versa, such as Philippines, Mexico, Brazil. Fourth, we come to masculinity versus femininity. According to Hofstede, masculinity is a way to characterize cultures that value assertiveness, competitiveness, and material success. Femininity characterizes cultural preferences for collaboration, nurturing, and harmony. Sweden has the most rich bottom feminine temperament. Japanese culture, there is a significant masculine culture, and American masculine culture should be relatively mild some. What are the main differences between the masculine and feminine cultures? The major differentiation between masculine and feminine culture is how gender roles are distributed in these cultures. In masculine culture, both men and women are relatively tough. And in these cultures, social gender roles are clearly distinct. Men are supposed to be assertive, tough, and focus on material success, whereas women are supposed to be more modest, tender, and concerned with the quality of life, such as Japan, Austria, Switzerland, Italy. In feminine cultures, social gender roles overlap. In these cultures, no one should fight and no one should be too ambitious. Everyone should be concerned with the maintaining good relationships with others. Both men and women are supposed to be modest, tender, and concerned with the quality of life, such as Sweden, Spain, Norway. Fifth, it is long-term orientation versus short-term orientation. In long-term orientation countries, values towards the future, like thrift, saving, and persistence, such as Japan, the country with a long-term vision to the investment. Annual profit is not important, but the most important is the progress year after year to achieve a long-term goal. In the short-term orientation countries, people values towards the past and the present, and maintaining personal stability or happiness and living for the present. They concern with the short-term results. For example, the United States, the company pays more attention to the quarterly and annual profit results. Managers in the year or quarter by quarter on staff performance assessment in profit. 6. Let's come to indulgence versus restraint. Indulgence stands for a society that allows relatively free gratification of basic and natural human drives related to enjoying life and having fun. Restraint stands for a society that suppresses gratification or needs and regulates it by means of strict social norms. Australia is a typical country that indulgence have. On the contrary, Pakistan is a typical country that restraints exist. Above all, Hofstede's theory is very important for international business. Of course, it also has defects. First of all, Hofstede assumes culture and between countries is one-to-one relation, but many countries have multiple culture. Hofstede's study did not seize this classification mode. Secondly, this study may be subject to the limitations of culture. The last but the most important, Hofstede's work is out of the date now. Culture is not static, although slowly, but along with the time development and change. In the 60s or 70s, have sufficient basis, characteristics. This may not be reasonable. So, when we refer to Hofstede's theory of cultural orientation to begin the international business, we must combine the contemporary cultural situation.